So we are at the end of the first quarter, and so I thought I would just drop a video and just share, you know, what my numbers look like, how I structure my business with my finances, and yeah, hopefully this can be helpful for you guys. So the first couple things that I do is I have two separate QuickBooks accounts, and you can get those for free. So if you go on the QuickBooks accountant version, you can use it for free. And so I have one for my personal and one for my business. And personal side, it doesn't matter. You could set this up however you want, whatever makes sense for you, but the important thing is to have these expenses, the total expenses number. So the 14,545, that is the number that I'm looking for because I want the average of the first 3 months. Because in my spreadsheet I have this goal here. So 4850 I know is a rough estimate. Well, not really even a rough estimate. I mean, those are actual numbers. So that is a good indication of the amount that I need to save each month so far. So at least for the first quarter. And then the second thing is for my business, I have this structure here. There's certain categories that you need to have for an accountant to file at the end of the year. But overall, this is the total expenses for me to run my business. And the two biggest things I'm looking for really is the fuel and the repairs for my vehicle, because in my business I have a bookkeeping business, so that's what I'm working to grow. I started it last year, and then I do a lot of driving as well. So I have these two separate categories for my bookkeeping and Uber income. But a lot of these expenses, they're pretty much fixed for the most part. Some will change, but overall, like, those are going to be the same. The two that are going to fluctuate the most is the fuel and the repairs. So since I have those numbers, I can then compare. So I'm just showing you for March. So this is basically like the month summary. It's going to give me all my numbers. I have my fuel savings, repair savings. So these are not the actuals yet. This is just the numbers that I am assuming I need to save. And then I have, other operating expenses, loans, and then the tax savings, and then the profit first. So I'll kind of go over all of that. So this is pretty much the total. I have my goal number here, and then this gain loss, it's going to show me if I'm above or below what I budgeted for. So that's important to me as well. I do everything by each week. So most of this is going to be, it's already set up to where these numbers kind of just go in themselves. And so I will leave a link in the description so you guys have the spreadsheet so you can play around with it. And then I do have other videos that I kind of broke down, like how I created the formula, so you can always go back and watch those if you want. So basically throughout the month, I'm just putting in my income. So at the end of the day, if I'm driving, I know how much I made for doing Uber, and then when I get paid from my clients for my bookkeeping business, I'm adding it in here as well. So I always have the total gross, and then at the bottom here, because I'm doing a lot of driving, this is very important to me. And this goes for really anything that I'm doing business wise. If it is for Uber, or if I'm driving to meet a client or something like that, or picking up materials for whatever reason, I'm adding this as a business mile. So I'm always putting in the starting odometer, and then when I'm done at the end of the day, usually when I get home, because I have a home office, I can take the miles all the way back to my house from start to finish, and then that gives me my total miles on a daily basis. And then if you're not familiar, the deduction rate for 2026 is $72.50, so that's what you get to write off if you take the miles at the end of the year. So if you do a bunch of driving, then you're going to want to take those miles, and then this is what you get to deduct. And then this is where those fuel savings and repair savings come in. So I'm taking my car gets 18 miles per gallon, and then right now fuel is at like $4 per gallon, so I've adjusted this number, so I'm multiplying that by $4 per gallon, and so that's giving me enough wiggle room to have a good fuel savings. And then roughly like 6.5% is what I've kind of figured out is about the right number per mile to save for any kind of like repairs and maintenance. So that being said, when you come up here, like on a weekly basis, like you'll see the deduction here. I took the home office deduction, like the simple version. So if you're not familiar with that, you can kind of look that up to see the differences. And then all the income gets put in here from that other spot where I was keeping track of the income, and then these automatically get put in as well, so the fuel savings, repairs, and then any additional costs that I'm acquiring that I know I'm going to pay on a monthly basis, I'm adding this to my weekly expense. So in my business, I have 4 different accounts. One of them is the operating account, which mostly everything gets paid through, and so that's where these numbers are coming from. And then at the end of each week, all my income gets put into an income account, and then at the end of the week, I have this total number here, and I'm just transferring funds to those specific checking accounts. So I have all these. I have the taxes that I'm saving. So this is, I'm pretty much saving like 15% of the gross. Whether that'll be too much or too little, I'll determine that, probably at the end of the next quarter or something like that, as I'm going through and just kind of dealing with taxes and payments that way. But that's what I've been doing so far. And then I have a prepaid savings account, so because I know I'm gonna have to pay to renew like my LLC, I know I'll have to pay my accountant at the end of the year, and then any loans. So if I don't need to pay a loan like right away, I'm just preparing so that I can put these numbers into one account, and then when I'm ready to pay that loan, then I'll pay it from this account. So that's why I have this. I'm just preparing for upcoming costs. And then I do like the profit first strategies, so I'm taking 2% of the gross, and then I'm allocating it to like a vacation savings account. So that's how I do that. And then this bottom number is what I actually pay my personal account for all of my other expenses. So when I come back in the personal, I'm actually tracking every single expense that I have. So like the total mortgage that I have for my house, HOA fees, any repairs for my house, utilities. I mean, that's a big one because it's changing so much. So that's what I really want to keep track of. And this is important too because if you are running, a business, this comes into play for the home office. So most likely I'm going to take the actual deductions for my home office, so like utilities and the repairs, the interest on my mortgage, stuff like that. I'm going to share that with my CPA, and then she will determine whether or not how much of a percentage I can take for the home office deduction. But other than that, though, that's why I have this set up, because I want to make sure that the amount that I'm paying by the end of the month, this number is going to be in the green. So that being said, on the business side of it, when I get to right now, I'm probably going to set it up like this for each quarter, and this is where those actual numbers come in. So these are important to me right now. The taxes, obviously, this is how much I saved, and then I haven't paid anything yet. I haven't paid into the IRS or anything, so we'll see if this number, if I'm above or below, or if I need to adjust those numbers. But the fuel and the repairs, I have these actuals that I got from my profit and loss for the first quarter. So I just literally came in here and took these numbers out and added it to my spreadsheet, and now I can actually see, it looks like that my numbers are pretty close. So I am saving enough to continue operating the way I am. And then I have this number here. That's the actual amount that I'm spending, to operate the full business with my bookkeeping and Uber. And then, I have just my personal budget, so I'm always adjusting this as well, just manually. And, I have a long-term rental, so I like to track these numbers, but that's a whole separate business. But this mainly is for what I'm doing now, and as I'm trying to continue to grow my business, these numbers are important to me. And because I have this set up, I don't have to think about it as much anymore. So anyways, that's kind of where I'm at. Obviously there's some numbers that I need to adjust as far as expenses. I need to cut down on a few things probably, because I'm still in the red. But as I continue to grow my bookkeeping, hopefully this becomes, I'll be able to actually put a lot of this into savings. And so anyways, hopefully this was helpful. I don't know if you guys are interested in seeing this kind of stuff, but this is how I'm operating currently. And that could change by next quarter. I'm always making adjustments. But if you guys ever have any questions, I'll leave all my socials in the description as well, so feel free to message me anytime. I'm always happy to help. If you need help with your bookkeeping, I'm always bringing on new clients. I'm trying to grow this year, and so if you need help with that, feel free to reach out. But anyways, appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the next video.